Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It is fantastic to have you here. Today is the start of week 3 of the 4 weeks of forging challenges that we're setting for you all. We're going to be making a beefed up, chunky version of a jeweler's hammer, chasing hammer, repousse hammer, whatever it's called. It's going to be beautiful. Thank you for joining us. Today's sponsor is Audible, host of the largest selection of audiobooks anywhere in the world, and you can listen to fantastic stories, educate yourself with incredibly informative books by going to audible.com/forge or by texting forge to 500-500, where you will be getting a 1-month free trial that includes 1 free audiobook and unlimited Audible originals as well. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring this. Let's get making a hammer. In the fire right now, we have a piece of 2-inch round, 1045, 3.1 inches long, which is about the perfect size for making a 2.5-pound hammer. I need to get this power hammer warming up. Let's forge this into something a little more manageable. So I made my piece an octagon. That's just for the fun of it. I'm trying to get a little creative and do a hammer that I haven't done before. There's nothing stopping you making a hammer with just a simple piece of 1.75" by 4-inch round 1045. We have some of these available, which means you don't even need to go buy a whole stick of them and cut them up yourself. You can start with this, make whatever style of hammer you want in this competition. We just want to see you challenge yourself. So, you can make a hammer by hand. You've seen me do it in a recent live show, and that's by hand without a striker. We have been using Matt's help. He's going to be swinging a sledge for us. Let's jump right in. I'm out of practice. My skill levels aren't really up to snuff of what they might once have been. But we've got a hole punched. We've got a nasty plug. The next step is to drift it and start bringing those cheeks down. Alrighty, though we're not intending for this to be the same as a normal rounding hammer, we're going to start with much the same basic shape. So, the top and bottom fullers, we're going to start forging trough lines, which isolate the cheeks and the eye from the faces. Key things of forging. Don't go too far too fast. Forge evenly. Forge all sides the same. We don't want to go too far too fast and bring this down to final dimension because we're going to be causing too much distortion in one go. We don't like that. We want to take things little bit by little bit. If we pinch down that one end way too far all of a sudden, we're going to pinch up the eye. The eye is going to be distorted. It's going to be too difficult to get the drift in. If we pinch this end, same thing. Things get funky, so we go little bit by little bit. What we want to do is we want to give ourselves the best chance of evenness, the best chance of success by repeating things from one side to the next and by doing little bits at a time so that it stays even and neat and we can fix mistakes as they begin to develop. Alrighty, with trough lines forged, it's time to do something a little special. I remember when I was first getting into blacksmithing and I was first looking through the work that Brian Brazil used to do, I remember seeing photos of him forging a flatter and I believe one of these hammers in this way, having a striker come in from the side. So we're giving it a shot. We're going to use this to spread out our face and hopefully make this interesting and unique and give us the challenge of trying something new. Alrighty, so what we're doing here is I am having Matt strike on the peen end. Here's our flat face. This is going to be the peen.
We got way too much material up here for what we're trying to do. And so we're bringing it down with a flatter. And though we're going to bring that trough line down further, we're just doing 1 bit by 1 bit so we don't get it all too twisted. If I thin the trough lines out too far, then it's going to all start bending around that weakened area. So, slow and steady, here we go. Almost there. Slow and steady does it.
Okie dokie! As you can see, we progressed from using the small fullers on the cheeks to using the big fullers on the cheeks. They've smoothed it out. And they're looking quite nice. The next step is just cleaning everything up. I'm going to take a low heat so we don't oxidize it too much. We're going to be using the flatter here on the peen, making it a nice octagon. Then take the fullers back into the trough lines, octagonalize those, make those neat. And we are going to have to just ease our way into cleaning this area because unfortunately, we don't have this intermediary size of fuller, so we're going to have to just carefully inch our way across this little cavern to smooth it. But I think it's going to look quite nice. I'm really liking how this is turning out. Right, time to touch mark it. Alrighty folks, that is a forged something hammer. I have no idea what to call it. It's a ball peen, it's a chasing hammer. Who knows, it's beautiful. We're gonna let this thing cool down, and then it's on to some grinding.
Ah, it's time to heat treat it. But the bucket is leaking.
It's definitely hardened. You can tell by how it wants to dribble so livelily. Into the oven for some tempering. It's been tempered. It's time to finish grinding it and get a handle for it. New development, folks. Something very exciting. If you're after a handle, we got some on the website. This is our favorite handle shape. It is kind of capsule shaped, flat sides, rounded ends. These are made out of hickory. We spend a lot of time picking the right stuff. So we got some handles up on the website. I'm going to use one of these. This is still really hot and it's burning me, so I'm going to cool it down. Let's grind this sucker. All right, we have the faces polished. They're looking quite nice. So now onto the handle. Rule number 1, whenever you're grinding wood, don't grind wood with abrasives that have touched steel. A belt like this, though it looks really worn down, it's still gonna cut steel pretty well. But it's not gonna cut wood, it's gonna burn the wood. This is a fresh belt, not touched steel. It feels nice and sharp. That's what you want to use on wood, because you'll practically never wear out a ceramic abrasive belt on wood. And so you can just have one belt relegated to being used on wood whenever you're making handles. You're going to be using it for a long time before it's no longer cutting the wood. Right, first step. The way our handles come, they're flat on the sides. There's no taper here though, it's just one taper here. We want to get this to fit in here about halfway. Never hammer on a square cut hammer handle end. Must put a heavy chamfer on that before you start driving it in. Time to cut our slot for the wedge. I'm just using a hacksaw. Let's grind this down and put a wedge in. We'll get it set this way up and then we'll flip it over and drive it the rest of the way with the anvil hitting the wedge. ton of fun to make this hammer, a ton of fun to refresh some old forging tricks of mine that I haven't used in a while. I've enjoyed that. Working with a striker is always a great time. Our winners of week 2 of 4 weeks of forging are these guys. They're going to be getting some cool prizes. Super excited to see the awesome tongs that you guys have been making. And don't forget to enter for week 3 of 4 weeks of forging. Make a hammer, because the top 2 prizes are going to be a 2.5 pound rounding hammer and $100 to the online store. And we're going to be randomly giving away one of the entrants this BALL-PEEN hammer. Super exciting. You enter by posting a photo of your work and using the hashtag 4 weeks of forging, tagging Alec Steele and Alec Steele Co. Before we end this video, huge thanks are owed to our sponsor.
Today's sponsor has been Audible, which is host of the largest selection of audiobooks anywhere in the world. I love listening to Audible when I am commuting, when I am riding my bike, which I have been doing so much of. Look at these beautiful, gorgeous blue Montana skies we have. And I love listening to Audible when I'm doing a project here in the workshop. That means I can put some headspace into listening to a great story or learning some good stuff. An audiobook I recently started listening to was Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything. I remember when I was very young going on a road trip and listening to the CD audiobooks. I remember we'd have to keep changing CDs to actually be able to listen to the whole thing. Well, this is so practical. I get to switch between whichever audiobooks I want really easy. The app is so fast and easy to use. As you can see, I've also been listening to Cadell Evans's The Art of Cycling. You can get started trying out Audible with a free trial that is also going to include 1 free audiobook and unlimited Audible originals for you to listen to when you go to audible.com/forge. You can also text FORGE to 500-500 to access that as well. We're incredibly grateful for Audible's support, for what the whole platform does, what it can teach us, and what great stories it can help us here. We're grateful for you supporting our sponsors. Help support the show. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.